If we're to cope with an extra 3 billion middle class on the planet between now and 2030, and if we're to loosen the vice-like grip that China has on key world resources, because this is not just about scarcity, this is about control, this is about economic growth, this is about managing that economic growth. This is really, really complex. There's a whole load of geopolitics that are here. And if we're to reskill a population which arguably has forgotten what it's good at, and if we're to stand a chance of making things again in the UK, we need that back. We really need that back. Then we have to look at a circular economy. It's got to be cool. It makes any other approach to resource use seem irrelevant. That whole old model of take, make, use, dispose, that worked in 1930s. And that worked for a long, long time. The world's changed, the demands are different, and that model is not appropriate anymore. So we have to change what we do.
We are living in an extremely complex world. And talking of open data, here is some free software, Source Map. Everybody can go on, use it for free. They can map their supply chains. Somebody did for a laptop, and they just started mapping it, and you can see the flows going from around the world, back again. You'll produce it in one country, send it to Europe, send it back to China again, and it would be hugely complicated to map that. But somebody's tried to do it here, but I would suggest that's only for a small number of the components, an extremely small number. Everybody recognised there are a number of mines around the world that held the stranglehold on supply of particular raw materials. But if the pinch point in a supply chain appears later on, then it doesn't matter if your material is freely available. If the pinch point's later on, then you really struggle. We thought we had it covered. We had 3 or 4 different mines supplying us with the key raw material. What they didn't realise is all 4 of those mines sent the material to the same processing plant. There was a fire in the processing plant. So yeah, great, they had 4 mines, but the processing plant stopped and they were without a major product for a number of months.
I'm going to focus in on a particular product, the evolution of a product, so BT's Home Hub router. I'd like to think that this gives you the gritty inside story of how you take the circular economy and make it work in a very large corporation. People who were our customers that were collecting these sorry you were out because the product couldn't be collected was generating a huge number of vehicle miles. That's a service design aspect that I thought, aha, I want to get rid of that. I want to improve the customer service element by customers not having their first experience of a delivery of the BT Hub as doing this. Now, this is not a good experience. And our product managers latched onto this. So I created a Trojan horse that I could start to design a product to fit through a letterbox, which ultimately was to lead to materials recovery. But the service design aspect of this was that the customer wouldn't get a sorry we missed you note on the mat inside their house or in their business. In a sense, what I was able to do is say, yes, the carbon footprint savings, that's what I'm trying to do, that's important and that matters, but actually look at the service design, the customer experience aspect of it. That is also a great benefit. And those combined encourage the cultural shift to instruct the design agency to develop it in a certain way, all the way back from the printed circuit board through to the outer box that could go through the letterbox. And that's that cultural shift that is sometimes quite hard to achieve, so you have to have a number of wins in there to create that tipping point.
My organization hosts community events where we call them restart parties, where we bring together people with skills, technical skills, and they help people fix their own things. We actually want to reinvigorate that and basically stimulate demand for repair. Get people thinking and feeling that things can be repaired, that they're not sealed black boxes.
All of our electronic products contain conflict materials. A lot of them are mined in the Congo. But what Fairphone are doing that's really genius is that they're not trying to change and make a responsibly produced phone. They're trying to change the industry. And they're doing that by sharing information on their supply chain. So they're starting off a conversation about where their materials come from, and that's enabling that conversation to start, whereas previously it was hidden. because manufacturers just didn't want to talk about it. They was embarrassed by the fact of where their materials were coming from. And this openness from Fairphone has actually enabled, or the sharing of their information and information on their supply chain has enabled us to source better materials.
I'm going to talk about milk bottle recycling, most specifically how we use exchange of data, open data, to make milk bottle recycling more efficient. We start with a big pile of milk bottles. We get some residual cap flakes. We get some residual label flakes. We get ink bleeds from the labels into the wash water. So we do everything we can within the limits of our process physically within our plant to minimise that effect. You can see this is just a video of a flake sorter. So if you can see, those flakes are about a centimetre across. That's chopped up drinks bottles, but you can see that blue flake there? Bang, got it. We've done all sorts of incredible things, but the most important and the most interesting one is that. So can you see? Sounds really simple, but it was incredibly difficult to do. We reduced the cap-tin, and when I say we didn't, we had absolutely nothing to do with that apart from feeding back data. So we could feed back data to the dairies that showed the impact of those residual coloured flakes on the overall colour of the material.
We've moved from unconscious consumption, which we're trying not to do, towards conscious consumption and probably conscious unconsumption at some point. And I've seen more anti-iPhone 6 stuff on social media this time than I saw with the 5S a year ago. And the only way that these organisations can make us dissatisfied is with emotional design and with software design.
Consumption drives resource use, and consumption drives business growth. So how do we make more money by selling less? This is really, really difficult. And the circular economy, the reason it's become so prevalent is because it offers an economic solution to an environmental and resource problem. And it offers a skills solution to a country, potentially, that actually has forgotten what it does.